today, this evening. I want to welcome all of you future millionaires. Welcome to the show this evening. We have a guest that you're going to be very entertained by today. Her name is Maria Constanza Palmer. She grew up in America's top 10 Italian restaurant in the 80s and 90s. She watched the rise of her father, rise to fame, and his eventual downfall, which landed with a stint in federal prison. She's written a best-selling, award-winning book called On the Rocks, The Primadonna Story. She speaks about food, mental health and wellness, overcoming adversity, persistence, and resilience. As you know, that is 100% what this show is about. She also talks about her unconventional 17-year journey to publishing as well. She's a writer, American Book Fest winner for her co-authored book, On the Rocks. She's also a regular co-moderator of the Food is Religion Club on Clubhouse. A former host on LA Talk Radio, she was recently featured on Food and Beverage Magazine Live, a nationally syndicated podcast, as well as iHeartRadio. Her writing has been published in OC87 Recovery Diaries, and she has made a number of media appearances. Maria, welcome to the Millionaire by Morning show.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Rashad. Thanks so much for having me. This is a lot of fun.
We are very, very interested in having you on the show today because, number one, we see that you have a really interesting story to tell. And number two, you are really publicized well. Your marketing is really working. I look at your Instagram and all of the media spaces that you have been in. So can you tell us a little bit? I guess we can start a little bit about that. How is your current media and publicity run going?
Sure. Well, it's really been quite amazing. So, whenever I started this journey some 17 years ago, I had no idea that this was even going to be a book. I just went with it. And at the time, I thought it was just going to be a family history project. And as you had mentioned in my intro, I do have kind of a very twisty and turny story. And eventually, my dad at one point was one of America's top 10 Italian restaurateurs and top 10 restaurants in America. And it follows the story through that, through his eventual downfall, which led him to a stint in federal prison after somebody mentioned his name in a federal grand jury investigation. And it was coming out of that time, it was a really challenging time for our family. And I knew that my dad, his best years were at the restaurant. So it really started by me saying, "Hey, Dad, tell me a story about a time that something really crazy happened at the restaurant," or "Tell me a story about a time that a celebrity came in," or "Tell me a story about one of the first fights that happened in the bar." And that's really how this project got started. And then it emerged from there. And I was lucky enough to pair with my co-author, Ruthie Robbins, who was my former AP English teacher in high school. And she, at the time, was working with a group in Buffalo, New York, editing their published manuscripts. And she brought some of my pieces to them. And they agreed on two things. Number one, it needed a lot of work. And number two, there was a lot of commercial potential. And so we worked on this project diligently together an additional 7 years, 10 years on my own, and then 7 years with Ruthie. And eventually, whenever this project came out, I really just wanted to get it out. I really wanted to tell my family's story. But to answer your question about the publicity and how things are going, I have just been blown away by how kind people have been and how much they've taken to this story, because I told my dad in writing it, and it's very easy in life to say all the good things about what went on, right? All the awards that you win, all the people that you helped, and all the wonderful things that you did. And there were quite a lot of wonderful things to talk about that we did talk about in the book. But what's really challenging is to talk about the things that are hard, right? Whenever we fall, and we're down and out, it's really tough to convey that. And, what I told my dad is that by conveying that, not only are we telling the truth and giving the full side to the story, but we're also helping other people that might be struggling. And what I found through this project is that's exactly it. People latch onto this story because it is one of an underdog, it is one of resiliency, it is one of humanity. And I think that that's one of the reasons why the publicity efforts have just gone so well. And, I'm having an opportunity to speak on your show. I've gotten an opportunity to speak all around this wonderful country of ours and actually in other places too. We've had interviews in the Netherlands and Turkey and all over the place, lots of the UK. So it's just been an amazing ride and an amazing journey. And I had no idea it was going to be like this. Really, I had no idea.
That's amazing. It is the rags to riches stories. It is the stories of resilience that, everyone loves to hear because, to be honest, it is the American dream that, has really came to fruition. And, we can actually see it, put our hands on it, and would love to speak with somebody who has been through that. You are referring to, whenever you mention Italian, I'm asking a little bit about the past now. Whenever you
Sure.
mention Italian, and of course the 70s, 80s era, you think about the mob era, right? Because of television.
Of course.
So, yeah, of course. So, you know, um, so is this that as well? You're in New Jersey, am I correct? Or is that where
Yeah,
you're at?
I live in New Jersey outside of New York City now. The whole book takes place in Pittsburgh in a
Okay,
really small little town called McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania. And nobody had ever heard about McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania until recently, last football season. Damar Hamlin, who is one of the Buffalo Bills players, collapsed with a cardiac arrest on the field.
right.
His mother's charity and where he grew up is actually in McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania. And his mother's charity, that I think he's now raised $9 million for and counting, shares an alleyway with what once was my dad's restaurant.
Okay,
And so, to get back to your story about the mafia and the mob, so Pittsburgh was a very interesting place back during the steel mill days. So it was it's a city that definitely has its ethnic pockets. McKees Rocks was a place where a lot of Italian immigrants went and they migrated to. So, naturally, there was a lot of all of that stuff kind of going on. Now, as far as our personal involvement, there was no involvement. The federal government was hoping for a lot of involvement in the mafia whenever they sort of tagged my dad and went into a 3-year invasive investigation, but no such connections were found. Now, that being said, everybody's got to eat, right? So we served many, many people of all shapes, sizes, colors, creeds at the restaurant. So, it was certainly the place to be. And were those people coming down and eating there? Yeah, of course. Was it a hangout for the mafia? No, not at all. Not at all. But, there were certainly people that were coming through our doors, like I said, of all different colors, creeds, nationalities, types, corruption levels, for sure.
right, right. Which could actually be any restaurant in America. you
Sure.
know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. People need to eat.
Yeah, exactly.
And they love
Well,
good food. They love
and they
good
love
food.
good food. If you're a top restaurant, the word is going to get out.
Sure, absolutely. And I think, one of the things that made my dad's restaurant very unique was it was in Pittsburgh. And this was a time before YouTube. I'm going to pick on YouTube because that's where we are right now, right? Before any type of technology, before Google. It was a destination restaurant before MapQuest. People had to use a triptych to get to the restaurant if they wanted to come down. So it was not an easily accessible place like in Chicago or in New York City or in San Francisco. This was in a small suburb of Pittsburgh, about 7 minutes away from downtown. And this McKees Rocks is not a space, even today, it's not a place, if you visit Pittsburgh, you're not going to go there. There's nothing there. It's just a place for the locals. And, a lot of people, when they drive through now, their windows are up and their doors are locked because they just are getting through that area. It's not necessarily considered a gem of Pittsburgh by any stretch of the imagination, but it was where it was all happening back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And that was very much credit to my father, because it was a very rough area whenever he went in, and it continued to be a rough area. And now it's a rough area too. But he loved that city, and he loved the people of McKees Rocks. And still to this day, we just did a speech at the McKees Rocks Historical Society. And to this day, he just loves the city and just loves the people. Very down to earth, salt of the earth type of people. Like I said, a lot of immigrants that kind of came in to make a better life for themselves and ended up, in that area, trying to live the American dream. So it's just a cool story and a really neat setting for sure.
It sounds like it. Sounds like it. Definitely. I'm a big historian, and as much as I hate to admit it, the '80s are starting to become a classical time. so so I like hearing about the old, '80s, even the '90s stories,
Yeah.
and what was going on during that time. As far as the story, does it have a I guess I would call it a teaching component, as far as you know um, moving yourself on along. This is, if you read it, you get something out of it that you can definitely take with you and apply to life.
I think so. I think the undertones of the story, certainly there's an underdog piece of it, right? So whenever he got into the restaurant business, he bought this failing business in this corrupt city of McKees Rocks, which actually was a restaurant. And he turned it into, like I said, one of America's top 10 Italian restaurants. And we had celebrities and sports stars and broadcasters coming in there. And he won national and international awards. He had a Dorona Award, which is equivalent to a James Beard Award now. But at that time, James Beard was only for chefs. And he had so much tremendous power over the city because of the restaurant. And then one day it all went away with a knock at our door. And I, unfortunately, at 20 years old, answered that knock at the door. And it was the federal government looking for him. And the fact that your life can change on a dime and you can go from the top of the world to the bottom of the world, I think that there's something to learn in that. And it's not the mistakes that we make, but how we pick ourselves up from those mistakes. Because in life, some really hard things are going to happen to every single person out there that's listening. And it's really not dwelling on those hard things, but sometimes trudging through. And sometimes that mud is thick and it's filled with quicksand, and we feel like we're being swept away. But I always tell people, because I work in the nonprofit field, and I always tell a lot of my clients who are really down and out, it is not the smartest person in the room that's going to be the most successful. It's the person that it has the most amount of resiliency. It's the person that can just hang on whenever times are tough and find a way through and get to that light. It's that person. And really, I honestly feel like, and I think that this is really another teaching moment too, is that nobody should be judged by the worst mistake that they maybe have made. It should be judged by, what do they do about that? What do they learn from that? what are some of the greater teachings of love and forgiveness and resiliency and persistence. I think that that's really what people take away from this book. That's the feedback that I certainly got. People, I won't ruin it at all for you, but if you get through the last chapter without crying, you're going to be one of the very few. Um, it definitely has a very powerful message, and a message that people can relate to regardless of whether or not they've ever worked in the restaurant industry. It's, as my dad always said whenever I worked in the restaurant with him, we're not just teaching people about the restaurant business here, we're teaching you about life.
That is a quote to behold. Um, Within your description of what it is that you do, um, and I'm pretty sure just what you're passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
you have intertwined the restaurant business, a book club, and just other aspects of living and life as you go on this journey. Am I correct?
Yeah, 100%. So, whenever everything sort of happened with my dad, we took a pause for about 20 years, and we were no longer in the media. We were no longer out there. And what is so wonderful now is that we're back at it. We're back doing the stuff that we love. We're back talking to people, getting a chance to really connect with our readers, getting to do some cool things. I just did a really neat event here in New Jersey, a cook and book, where we did a hands-on cooking class, and then we sat down, everybody got a plate, and we had a book discussion, and then did a book signing afterwards with a nice little Q&A. So really getting to marry together the things that I love the most, and getting this time. My dad has not had the best health, so being able to do this while he's still here with me, it's been amazing. It's just been so fun to see his transformation. And, he said to me today, because he's legally blind, so somebody was driving him to the doctor. He said the person that was driving him said, should I call you um, Joe, Sir, Mr. Costanzo, or just the legend? And that to me was pretty awesome, because it wasn't always that way. Whenever, like I said, when things were tough, nobody really wanted to call and reach out, or, take us out to dinner necessarily. But now things have all changed. And, I made him write me a message in my book. And he just quite simply said, Maria, you have resurrected me. You've given me this second life. And it's so much fun. It's awesome, because whenever I was young, my dad had a radio show. And now I get to share the stage with him. And we're all the time, we're on the radio together, we're on TV, we're doing stuff. And it's like a full circle type of situation. And that to me, I don't care. I mean, if this book doesn't sell one more copy, those memories that were made, they were worth it. They were
Yeah.
100% worth it. Just to cherish those times with the people that you love the most. I think that that's my lesson in writing this book, is that time is precious with those people that we love, and getting to spend those magical moments. It's just amazing. I'm so blessed.
That is a blessing. That is a blessing. It comes around full circle. And even between, the space between an adult and, their children, and their children moving through teenage years and early adulthood, there may be a space within that time somewhere. But then it can come around full circle, like in your case, to where both of your interests come back together and you
Hmm.
enjoy each other company. And it's a beautiful thing. I have a friend that told me, and this is a piece of advice that he gave me. He's older than me, and I've always, looked up to his advice. And his advice was very simple. And his advice is just keep living.
Hmm.
And I have to say that, as small as that is, as simple as it is, it is the most profound advice that you can give someone.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
everybody has to have a purpose, and you have to have a reason to want to get out of bed in the morning. If you just don't really have anything going on and you just kind of go through life, yeah, you're not really living. But find something, anything that you're passionate about and that you can lash on to, and really, 20 minutes, half an hour, it goes like this. I mean, I could talk about this stuff all night and it feels
Right,
like it's 1 minute,
right.
but you got to find what it is that does that for you. I think that that's really important. I think your friend's 100% right. You just keep on living, keep
That's
on doing
it.
it.
That's it. You said the magic word, and what your father said, resurrection.
Yep,
Even if you go through bad times, and there's something out here that could possibly resurrect you, and there you are
sure.
again, living again. That's awesome. I really like when you told me about the book. I could see that it is something that, it's a story, it's a life story. There's learning included in it. And um it's what we watch on TV, it's what we hear all the time, it's what people make music about. That's just good stuff. And I see on
Yeah.
your website that you have I know what you're thinking. This author is super awesome. How do I contact her to buy her film, TV, audio rights and book her for an appearance? I think that's super awesome because you already know like what this could be, what this could possibly be, and when you talk about it as if you know this can be a movie. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
yeah,
And kind of since then too, I'm not the best at updating my site. We all have gifts and technology is not one of them for me. Actually, I tell people the most stressful part of the interviews for me is right before I press go on Zoom or on a studio, because I don't know if my earphones are going to work. I don't know if somebody's going to be able to hear me, if my microphone's going to work. Once I know that all that's good, I can relax and I'm good. But since I think I put that up, we did get a shopping agreement for film and TV rights. So I put that out there to people. And right now, we're shopping it around and trying to sell it to a studio. But I put that out there for people because you got to believe in you more than anybody else does. And if you don't believe in yourself, I always tell people, people say, oh, well, is it easy to write your book and get your book published? And I said, heck no. If I would have listened to every single person that told me no, I would have never had this book. I sent out, whenever we were searching for agents, I sent out, you have to send out query letters, which is basically, a very fancy way of telling an agent why they would be interested in your project. And, it consists a little bit about your book, the most hooky part of your book, who you are, and why you would be a potential match for them. And so I sent out 265 of these letters.
wow.
Over 140 people never even had the decency to say thanks, but no thanks. And this is after, whenever you submit these letters, sometimes people have you submit a full manuscript, which in my case was 85,000 words, a full book proposal, which is like your business plan for your book, which in my case was about 60 pages, plus the query letter. And people didn't even have the decency to respond. Over 100 more people gave me a very quick thanks, but no thanks, no way. And only about 17 people requested more information. And out of that 17, one ended up offering me representation. And I always tell people that story because my journey, that's just one part of the journey, but my journey has
Right.
not been easy at all. And if I would have listened to people, like I said, I would have stopped a long time ago. And I'm so glad that I didn't, because when my book came out, which a lot of people said it never would, or never would have an audience, or it would just be very, very micro local to Pittsburgh, My book was the #1 culinary memoir on all of Amazon for the first 2 weeks. Ahead of #2 was Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential. #3 was Stanley Tucci's Taste. As I mentioned, we have a shopping agreement for film and TV rights. Over the summer, LA Weekly named me one of America's top 15 authors to watch in 2023. I've had inquiries with Broadway as well, as having interest in potentially putting this on the stage. And we just won the American Book Fest Awards for 2023 for the best narrative nonfiction book in America. So I show that to people, that no matter what other people say about you, and you do need to take constructive criticism. I'm not saying that, you could put together a piece of crap and, expect it to fly. But if you're trying your best, if you believe in your story, and if you're working to be your best at all times and making that story the best, then don't have other people tell you that it's not going to happen for you. Don't give them that power. You take back your own power. And just as with this story, we took back our own pen. My dad's story could have ended like it did. And, 3 years ago, if you Googled my dad's name, it would just come up that he was a convicted felon.
Right.
Now, you Google my dad's name, a lot of other stuff comes up.
Right.
A lot of very favorable stuff comes up. And so really, in this life, we always have an opportunity to take back our own pen and to tell people, we may know what happened, but do we really know why it happened? And, this book was a great opportunity for us to tell people why it happened. And I think people appreciate that. People appreciate knowing the story behind the story.
Maria Palmer, you have really gave us some insight on what it is to take back, take back your name, take back your legacy, to leave a legacy. I'm going to stop us right there because I want to end on that note.
Yeah.
And that's very intriguing and profound. And a lot of us can just learn from, like you're saying, you're explaining the story, but yet still you're explaining the why as well. And I want to look deeper into this book. I have to get the book and read it. But for anyone that's out there listening, take heed to what Maria Palmer is saying. Take heed to her book. Pick up a copy of the book. Do you have any upcoming events that's online or anything that people can go to?
I absolutely do. So December 14th let me just check the time. It is a virtual event for free that anybody can join, and it's through the Parkinson's Foundation of Western Pennsylvania, and it's from 4:30 to 6 p.m. And you can have a chance to meet me and also my lovely co-author Ruthie Robbins. And we're going to be on, and you just register. If you just look up the Parkinson's Foundation of Western Pennsylvania, they have a link to register. If you did want to buy an autographed book, you could do that. And some of the proceeds do benefit the Parkinson's Foundation. They reached out to us and have just been really lovely. So we're excited to support them. And, one of the things that my dad always really believed in, and we all believe in to this day too, is that everybody should have the opportunity to have a little fun in their lives, right? Regardless of whether or not you can get out of your house. And so I'm just so excited to be able to offer this to people who might be homebound and not easily mobile, but also people that, maybe are not local to the Pittsburgh area or to New York City, or going to be doing some events in Florida soon too. So, being able to offer this really to anybody in the world can sign up, and it's free to do so. And we would absolutely love to have you. We're going to do a little reading from the book. We'll do a little audience Q&A. So if you have your questions, everybody always wants to ask us all kinds of stuff, but people are certainly curious about the things that they can't touch. So everybody's always asking me about, what it's like to visit somebody in prison, what that was all about, if it's really like Shawshank, all that stuff. So if you have those questions and you really want to know, come on by December 14th and you can
There
ask.
you go. To all you mobster movie fans, she may have a story to tell you. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Martin Scorsese, give me a
There you
call.
go. There you go. Yes, yes, yes. This was really interesting. I appreciate having you on. Tell Mr. Constanza, am I saying it correctly?
Yep, yep, absolutely.
Um, he sounds like a great man. And anytime I get to jump online and can see you guys, tell your story, I would definitely be a part of it. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
we'd love to have you. If you're free, December 14th, please do jump online. We'd love to see you again for sure.
What about socials? Where can people catch you? Where are you at the most?
Yeah, I would say probably Facebook and Instagram, and it's at JoeCostanzo, Primadonna, Primadonna. So that would be Facebook and Instagram, but all of my socials, if you hit up my website, which is www.maria, Maria, like cat, Palmer, Palmer.com. That's all of my socials, how you can get the book, all of the media that I'm on. So after this episode is up and live, Rashad, you will be on that portion of my website too. And all the events. So the best way to know where we're going to be, I update that all the time. And I'll be updating that again soon. Like I said, we just booked an event. We're going to be in Florida in the beginning part of January, which is super exciting because now we're starting to step out of our comfort zone. The people have just been amazing. People love this cook and book concept. So I can see us doing a lot of that coming up for sure because people got to eat and they love
That's
to
right.
know how to cook some good, authentic Italian food. So yeah, be
That's right.
fun.
Along with the good story. Everyone
Yeah.
loves that. All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. I know you have more pressing issues to get to. I want to thank you again. I will get this. Now you gave me a job. I have to edit faster so we can get this out before December 14th so we can promote
There we
it.
go. Yeah, we could get some of your people on this. That'd be fantastic.
That's
Excellent. And
right.
please do send me the link because I will put it on I put everybody on my website. I'll shoot this out to my newsletter too, and just let people know that I was on your show. I always like to raise people up that have me on. So thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. We all need the publicity. All right,
Yeah,
Maria,
thank
you
you.
have a great night. And I look forward to seeing you on the big screen.
Yay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks for having me on your show. This was a lot of fun.
Okay, not a problem. You as well. Have a great night and much success to everything that you do from here on out.
Thank you. You too, Rashad. Thank you so much. All right. Have a
All right.
great night.
You too.
Bye. Bye.